Welcome to the April Yvette Podcast and community. I'm your host, April Yvette. I created this community and this podcast because I believe that stories change lives. And the reason I know that is because my own life was completely changed and rerouted for the better because I read someone's story and their story shared something in there that shifted my perspective and it completely changed the trajectory of my life. And that's why I have guests on and that I started this podcast is because I know that when people share their overcomer story or a new fresh idea or a fresh perspective, it can help you to move from where you are to where you're meant to be. So that's why I'm doing this. But I want to dive just a little bit deeper into what this podcast is about, who it's for. I want to share my story of really starting from humble beginnings, making $9 an hour, just barely scraping by as a single mom, to generating $9 million in sales. And then from there, I invented a product, was on Shark Tank, and had lots of publicity. Then I had this epic failure, a rock bottom moment that challenged my identity. And what I emerged from that was coming into a place of wholeness and clarity and really more authentic success, stepping into this new chapter of my life, navigating change. I mean, who hasn't gone through that? When something doesn't go as planned, and now whether you're in business or you're in life, in a relationship, whatever, you're like, okay, so now what do I do, and how do I navigate this successfully? All of that is what part of what I talk about on this podcast. So let me start from the beginning. I was born in Chicago, Illinois, to a single mom. I didn't have a dad, and we didn't live there very long. She moved back to Alabama, which is originally where she was from, and where my grandmother and my aunts all lived. And eventually, she met a man that was in the military. She married him, and he legally adopted me and became my dad. He raised me. He was technically my stepdad, but I never knew any difference. He loved me unconditionally, just like I was his own daughter. And so I grew up in a big blended family. My mom had a daughter from her first marriage. My dad, who adopted me, had a son from his first marriage. Then there was me. And then my mom and dad had three sons that were younger than me, my three younger brothers. We lived on military bases. And so I learned how to adapt to change pretty quickly because we were always moving around. I also, probably when I was around 16, 14, no, I think I was around 15 years old, we moved again in high school. We moved to Decatur, Alabama. The last year that my dad was in the military, he was ordered to live in Japan and work there for 1 year while my mom and my three younger brothers and our other siblings stayed in Decatur, Alabama. I was going to high school there. Well, I was at the time looking for love in all the wrong places and ended up in a very difficult and abusive relationship when I was 16 years old. I ended up getting pregnant at 16. I had my son when I was 17 years old, dropped out of high school just before that, giving birth. And here I was, found myself in a place where I had to tell my parents what happened. I got married, wanted to do the right thing instead of being a, single mom with just a child. Thought I was doing the right thing, but when you're young, you really don't know any different. And I stayed in this abusive relationship for 6 years. It got so bad at times. And I remember moments where I wanted to end my life. I don't recommend that, but was at that point where I knew that something had to change. The last straw was when I was on the ground in our living room in South Georgia with my now ex-husband, was being choked. I couldn't breathe. And I saw my two little kids. I had two children at the time with him, 4 and 5. And my son came down, this little 5-year-old with terror in his eyes. He saw his dad doing this and he jumped on him to try to stop him. That's when I knew I can't do this anymore. And I prayed for strength because I feared for my life. And that's when my mom and dad drove down to South Georgia. They lived in Indianapolis at the time. My dad had gotten a job in Indianapolis and they brought me back. So I arrived in Indianapolis in 1995 with two little kids. I didn't have very much furniture, just a few clothes that we owned, some little toddler beds. That was about it. It was just a few items. And I was starting all over. You may be able to relate with that, just starting all over from scratch after a really painful divorce. I got a job working in cosmetics, worked my way up into management, and I started out earning $9 an hour and had worked for them in Georgia before, but here also making not very much to live on. I was struggling with even having money to pay for an apartment for me and the kids. I lived with my mom and dad for the first 6 months or so. And then I had to move out on my own. Well, I ended up buying a trailer in a trailer park on the east side of town. It was my own. Did it by myself. And I was grateful, but I had aspirations for something more in my life. Even though I dropped out of school, I got sick and tired of the struggle. And at one day I was coming home, I had paid my rent, I had a mobile home payment, plus I had to pay lot rent and my electric bill and my childcare, and then I had to pay, I was always robbing Peter to pay Paul. And I was down to like $17 or something like that left in my bank account. And I was crying. I was driving home and I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to have money for groceries. But I don't get paid again for 2 weeks after paying this bill. I was crying. I had on my clinic uniform. I didn't know what I was going to do. I pull up to my mobile home and I see sitting on my front porch. I'm wiping tears and I see sitting on my front porch this very large box, a cardboard box. I thought postman probably delivered a package that's not mine and I need to give it back to my neighbors or figure out what I need to do with this. So I walk up to this box and it's large. It's really big. There's no address on it. I opened it up. It was filled with food. I literally felt like I had just witnessed a miracle from God in that moment. It was so powerful and so overwhelming that I had been praying because I didn't know what I was going to do. I picked up this big, heavy box and brought it into my living room. And inside my living room, inside this trailer that I owned, it was probably a medium colored dark wood paneling on the walls and dark wood cabinets like oak, but they were darker. And it had dark brown carpet in there and had a couple of mirrors on that were attached to the wall, large mirrors attached to the wall in the living room. And I just sat down this box and I just wept. I was just crying and I was praying and I was thanking God, thank you for this. Thank you. Thank you. And then pretty soon I felt this like anger rise up in me. It was a turning point for me. And I remember being in that living room thinking, never again. I am going to find a way out of this situation. I'm going to earn more money for my kids. I'm going to be able to pay my bills. I'm going to create a better life. I don't know how this is going to happen, but I'm done. I don't know about you, but have you ever been in a place where you were in a place of resolve, where something was going to change? You may not even see how it's going to happen, but you made a firm decision that you're going to change your circumstances. That's where I was at. And that's when I went on this search. I was searching for a mentor or hope or ideas or something. That my family was never into self-help or personal growth type information. So they didn't really know how to help me with that. They didn't have support around that. I came across a self-help book. I bought my first self-help book. This was around 1998. I was still a manager at the clinic counter. working as hard as I could, but seemed like I was just never it was not enough for my family and my kids. And so pretty soon, it wasn't very long. I came across this book, bought this book, read this story. I read a powerful story of this man who overcame like a poverty-like situation and overcame great adversity and hardships and rose up to extraordinary success in his life. He actually became one of the highest paid motivational speakers in America, earning $50,000 for a 1 hour keynote speech at conferences. And I remember reading his story, and he said in the book, and when he tells his story, his core message was, you you are not a victim of your circumstances. You are the creator of it, which means you have the power to change the trajectory of your life by making new decisions. And it was in that moment that I made a decision that I'm no longer going to be a victim of my life and what happened, that I am a powerful creator and I have the power to create a better life for myself and for my children. And I chose to take 100% responsibility for my results. Y'all, that shifted everything. It completely rerouted that decision, that one moment, that one decision rerouted my life. And that's when I started intentionally, like praying and intentionally taking action. I started to become a high achiever on a whole new level to go create success. I started studying successful entrepreneurs. I studied successful salespeople. I studied millionaires. I started to hone my skills in sales and marketing because my whole career I'd been in sales and marketing on some capacity. And I began to apply what I was learning. And then one day I got an idea and I changed careers. I went from earning $9 an hour to selling real estate and generating $9 million in sales. I won Salesperson of the Year. I mean, it was a huge change. I gave this mobile home, this trailer to my mom. I built a brand new house. I bought my dream house in Fishers, Indiana at the time. This was around 2003 and closed on it, got my own house. I bought a Mercedes Benz. I had, all the things that show people that you're successful. And it was good. And then after I won Salesperson of the Year, I had an idea for an invention and I made a decision just to go for it. And I invented this product. It took a year of production to create it in with a cosmetic manufacturer called Thin Gloss. And then I was on the TV show. I got a spot. I applied and got on the show Shark Tank. And then there was a landslide of publicity. My product was sold in stores across the US and in a few other countries. And then I got a licensing deal. And had my attorney involved and I worked with their attorney. It was going to be an infomercial on TV. I was so excited. It was written in the contract that I was going to get royalty checks every month and it was guaranteed to be a certain amount. So I thought, oh my gosh, I can't believe this. I've made this $1 million goal. It's this dream I've always had to build and grow a $1 million business like all those other successful people and those other successful millionaires. Y'all know, you've heard the success stories. And I thought, I've got my chance to do, it's time. It's my time. Maybe you've been on that trajectory too. And then I took my foot off the gas pedal. I kind of pulled back and got a little bit more lax, thinking that I was just going to get royalty checks and they were going to do all the work and I was just going to be the face of the brand. Well, it didn't work out so well. And 5 months after I signed the contract, they canceled the entire contract and it was legal for them to do it and just walk away. They just changed their mind. But I got myself in a financial mess secretly. I kept it a secret because I was supposed to be the success story. And my home went into foreclosure. I ended up listing it with a real estate agent and selling it in a short sale. I called the bank. I could not make those expensive payments on the Mercedes Benz anymore. And I said, I don't know what to do. I literally have no money left to make payments. And they said, okay, I said, "Do I need to bring this car to you? What do you want to do?" They sent somebody out. They towed my car. I had a garage sale. I sold everything that I owned, all the little designer stuff that I had picked up to show that I was successful. And house sold. I moved in with my fiance, who's now my husband. And so there I was, this big success story. Like I had worked so hard to build up to the pinnacle to be successful. That's all I ever wanted. Y'all, I discovered that I've been trying to prove my worthiness through external things like making big goals, winning awards, getting on TV, recognition, even sometimes in material things like luxury cars. There's nothing wrong with having material things or a really nice car or a really nice home that you enjoy, but when you're pushed to do it because you're trying to prove your worthiness, when that stuff see, all that stuff is temporary. When that stuff goes away and all that's left is you, that's when your ego starts to crumble and you can have a rock bottom moment, because that's what happened to me. You see, my identity was wrapped up in I'm that successful entrepreneur that built the $1 million business. And when I had that and then it was wiped out, it was gone. That's why I was depressed, at my highest weight ever. I felt lost. I was embarrassed. I felt shame. And I kept it a secret. That made it worse. I didn't tell anybody because I was going through it. I didn't know what I was going through. And then I cried out to God. I said, I need help to pull me up out of this dark place. I don't know what's going on. And I happened to catch just an episode of Super Soul Sunday where Oprah was interviewing someone, and they were talking about the hero's journey. And they talked about this. This was like years ago, back at 2010, 2000, no, more like 2012, something like that. They shared the stages of this hero's journey. I thought, oh my gosh, they're describing what my life has been like, what I just went through. You see, we're all really on this heroic journey, which was coined by the late philosopher Joseph Campbell. He studied all the most successful, most popular stories in history, epic stories that were wildly successful, and he discovered that there were 12 distinct stages that the hero of the story went on. Well, turns out it's very much aligned with real life, with real human beings. That's why people can relate to it. Long story short, I went on this healing journey. I went to counselors. I watched over 100 um, uh, videos on YouTube, and trying to, how do I heal my past wounds of my past and heal my the trauma and from the past, and how to just I just wanted to change my life and be better. I was disconnected from my family, even my husband at the time. I didn't know why. When I did this inner healing work, I traced it all the way back to the root cause. And I formed a core wound in my childhood that I didn't feel worthy. I never felt good enough. And that's when I became a perfectionist. Perfectionism at an extreme can hold you back from growing your business, hold you back from seeing failure as not a personal issue, but seeing it as, oh, this didn't work out. I just need to pivot and do something different. Um, I'm not going to go into all that I learned. I'll do that for a different video. But my point is, all of this led up to this next stage. I stepped into the next stage of my life. My next business was I started a consulting business, marketing and sales consulting business. I did that for 10 years. Had some success with that. Had great client success stories. Yet again, after 10 years, I started hitting this ceiling, this wall again that I couldn't quite get over. And I thought, okay, Lord, I'm in some kind of a transitional season again. Listen, it's okay to be in a transition. It has nothing to do with your worth or value. It's just a signpost that is redirecting you to try something new, or it's redirecting you to a whole new path. It's all part of the plan. You had to go through that first thing so that you could learn some important life-changing lessons, and some of us so we can heal our wounding from our wounding experiences early in life, so that it's a preparation, so that it is a set up and not a setback to prepare you and equip you so that you can be successful as at the next thing that God has planned for you on a whole new scale. On a whole new scale of visibility, a whole new scale of impact, a whole new trajectory for positioning you to create and accomplish what you're here to do and change lives along the way, to leave a legacy. So that was what I discovered. So I want to just say this. The reason why I started this podcast, y'all, I fought this for a while. The Lord's been speaking to me about doing this for probably 3 or 4 years. And like everyone else, I had fears come up. I felt like, who am I to be talking about this topic of psychology, human psychology, human behavior? I'm not a counselor. I'm not a therapist. But guess what? I can have those experts on my podcast to share from their perspective that I have vetted, and I know that what they're sharing is practical, that actually works to help people with healing, to help people to overcome their blocks and their limiting beliefs or anything that's holding them back. That's what I'm here to do. I'm also know for sure that I'm here to help people to unlock their highest potential, heal from their past, and give them the practical, actionable tools and business strategies that you can apply and keep moving forward and actually see change happen, to make progress. Not just sharing inspiring ideas, but how do you put it into action? That's what my plan is to bring. See, over here, we do the soul work. We do the mindset work. We do the daily habits that can help you to unlock your true potential, step into your purpose, and even extraordinary financial success that comes from doing what you were born to do. That's what I'm here for. So anyway, I'm just so grateful that you're here and that you're choosing to watch our episodes of this podcast. I've got so many great things planned for this. If you um, if you are enjoying our podcast, please subscribe, like, share it with your friends so that we can get the word out to help a lot more people with unleashing and unlocking their highest potential as well. It's practical business strategies, sales, marketing strategies that are unconventional but work right now in 2025 and beyond. It's personal branding, personal growth, how to successfully navigate life's peaks and valleys and the peaks and valleys in business. This will even help you with increasing your productivity. This will help you in shifting your mindset, overcoming fear, overcoming procrastination, overcoming avoidance. It's all, we will be covering all of those topics: mental health, human behavior, psychology. So this isn't just surface level ideas. This is okay, a deeper dive into it that is so easy to understand that even a fifth grader can understand it, to break this down, and then very practical step by step instructions that you can apply that will help you. That's what the podcast is about. Those are the kind of guests that I'm going to have on. I'm just so excited about this. I can't wait to get this content and information to you. It will be inspiring, motivating, empowering. You're going to leave this feeling like, I can do this. I'm capable. I'm stronger than what I thought. And you're going to reach your goals and do it in a heart centered way and make an impact. So that is all I have for you today. Thank you again for tuning in. I cannot wait to see you soon.